Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 35 of Duke's Download. And I am so happy and excited that we have as our guest today not only a super beautiful and talented actress, but a true trailblazer for the LGBTQ community, Candis Cayne. I see she is on, so I am going to. It says waiting. Hi there.
Hi.
Oh my God, you look so beautiful.
Oh my God, stop it.
You look amazing. Oh my God. How are you? Oh, you
I'm
always look amazing. Let me make that clear. But how are
I'm
you?
I'm good. I'm having a little glass of wine.
Oh, very nice. I'm gonna join you right after this. I feel like as an interviewer, the interviewee totally like drink. I feel like I should probably be a little
Well,
more.
I had sore throat for 3 days and I was like, oh my God, I have COVID. And so today I went and got a test and I just found out it's negative. So I'm like, wine.
It's it's like that. I love it. Like now, the we're celebrating that we don't have like a deadly virus. You know, it's like that's the stage of society that we're at. No, but honestly, thank you so much for doing this. I'm such a not only does it goes without saying, you know, we've known each other for a long time, but I'm such a huge fan and admirer of yours, and I've been like, you were one of the people I've always wanted to interview, so I'm so excited that you were going to do this.
I love that. Thank you. Of course. You're such a little angel.
Well, speaking
That's
of the fact that,
fine.
was that
That
again?
was that was the wine. That was a little
Well, no, when you met me, I was a little angel because I was thinking about the fact that it's been a decade since we met. And I don't remember, I don't know if you remember that I met you about going on a decade ago when I was first going out in West Hollywood.
oh,
And I took WeHo by storm a bit. And I have to say, though, I've told people the story. You gave me maybe the best welcome that anybody could ever give someone to like to, especially as like a newly out kid and like coming to WeHo. You performed Heaven is a Place on Earth, I think, and you did this amazing performance. I think you even said, "Welcome to West Hollywood, James Duke Mason." And I mean, what more could a kid ask for? I mean, honestly, than
I
that. So.
mean, one of my inspirations growing up, I had to do that.
That's so sweet. But no, you really did. You really were amazing. And so so yeah, no, I very much appreciate it. And I was thinking though, like WeHo has changed so much. You know, obviously I still live here, and I know you're still here a lot. But doesn't it
What
feel
is?
like? Go ahead.
What has?
Oh,
What
West
has?
Hollywood.
What is that? No.
Like West Hollywood. Well, you know, it's just I remember I'm only 28, but I talk to people to like younger
Me too.
gays like they're what.
Me
Well,
too.
no, I didn't mean it like I just meant like, you know, I talk to people who are like 20 or something, and I talk to them like I'm a Civil War veteran, like I'm, you know, like the like ancient times, and go, you know, I feel like WeHo was more of a little like a private, like a little club back then, and that kind of it was a really special time, I think, to be in the city. I loved your show, of course, that you did
That
back
was
then.
Abby.
Yep. The
Yeah.
Abbey. That was so much fun.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I had all of West Hollywood. I had stalkers. I had, it was a good time in West Hollywood. It was fun. I had so much fun.
Um, speaking of, so I have so many things I want to ask, but and I mean, I've had to pick out a few things that I wanted to ask you because there's so much I could ask, but I thought I'd start at the beginning. And one of the things I wanted to ask you was, I didn't actually know that you've basically been acting since you were 10 years old. Is that right? And like, how did you even get interested in acting in the first place?
Well, I mean, in like community theater, community theater. But of course, that was like my love. It was my dance and acting was my first were my first two, loves. And as a queer kid or a trans kid, but I read queer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you all the acting roles weren't really given to you. The dancing roles were, so I did a lot of that. But it's what I did. I love to act and I love to be a part of that. But when I when I transitioned, I didn't think it was possible for me to be an actor. And it was a sad moment for me. I was working in Chelsea in New York City. And I was showing all the queens in Chelsea. Trans people are real and form and be a part of the community. But I never in my wildest dreams thought I could actually be on television, be stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it forever.
No, that was incredible that I didn't realize it in the fact that you moved to LA from Hawaii, right, from after high school, and then you moved from LA to New York. And that up until that point, you weren't aware of what transitioning was, and that you could live a life as a woman, as who you really were. And then the fact that to try to reconcile that with becoming a dramatic actress. And that must have been quite a, difficult, but also kind of fulfilling and enlightening experience.
No, totally. Like moving from Maui to LA for a year and a half, maybe. But I knew I wanted to get to New York because I knew my people were there, my tribe. I mean, LA was beautiful, but there was no trans tribe that I knew of. It wasn't a trans tribe. It was more of like just a freak tribe, like a queer tribe that I knew I could sink my teeth into, that I felt like I could fit in. When I moved to New York, it was really like it was 91. Wow. And I like, okay, wow, this is like my people. It was super dangerous, super weird. You could still afford to live there in a $600, a month apartment. Meat packing district, which was not the glamorous meat packing district today. There was Jays and whores, but it was a lot of these like really crazy steps to get to a point where at a certain point you don't even realize it's possible to move to the next level. Like I was just like doing my thing, and I was auditioning for anything I could get my hand. And then it just kind of like the trans issue wasn't an issue so much anymore. You know what I mean? So I started clawing my way.
Well, so you moved to New York in 91, and then I know that within a few years you were in both Stonewall and in Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, which I think I knew that you were in, but I like the fact that you moved to New York and you got some work pretty quickly, and those are two like iconic films in like the queer cinema, history. What was it like working on those films?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like I moved to New York, and the drag community was so fierce, like being a part of the 90s New York drag community was like being a part of the Renaissance. And I know it, a lot of people will be like, oh, whatever, it's not the same, but it really truly was. Like I was a part of this whole scene that and then Rue's like You Better Work came out, and like all of a sudden the spotlight of drag was on New York City, and drag became kind of a viable commodity. And so being cast in Tu Wong Fu and Stonewall, doing choreography for that, it was just a part of like, it was everything that I thought the reason why I'm moving off of Maui to go to do, I was doing. And it was kind of incredible because, there were no examples of that. You know what I mean? There was like Dame Edna. You know what I mean? And I love her, but it's like there were no, like we were just kind of running. We were just running at the seat of our pants and just trying to like make things happen and going to clubs every single night of the week and just like having fun and listening to house and I was super dedicated. Like I would finish the club at 3. I know that sounds late, but most people would just stay on. But I was like, okay, where's my coin? I'm going home at 3, and I'd wake up at 10, go to dance class all day, I'd go to acting classes, and I was just really.
Well, everybody else was like staying up all night. When you were done with work, you were done with work.
I was done with work. I was like, come on, I got to wake up. I got to go to class, you know.
No, and of course, I knew that you were a big part of the like club kid, height of I would say the height of New York like nightlife culture in the 90s.
Club kid culture, yeah.
And so I have to ask you, what were your feelings when Michael Alig passed away? Was it like a few months ago, I think, right? Was that that must have been, an interesting feeling for you, or when you got that news? Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like I knew Angel. I worked at the Roxy. It was like my first job in drag. And I would carry around a Kitty Concessions candy tray with cigarettes and candy, and I would sell it. And I would see Angel every week, and we would say hi, and he might give me a little thing every once in a while. You know what I mean? And we would just he was the sweetest, amazing, most gorgeous guy. And when that all went down, Alec and Freeze and, murdering Angel, we all heard about it weeks before they were arrested. It had spread through the club scene.
Wow.
It first came with like the parents and family asking where Angel was, and we all didn't know, but then, Michael started kind of telling people, like he was almost bragging about it. So when he went to prison, I was not mad. When he died, I mean, trying not to be away, but when he died, okay, what if you chopped somebody up and put them in a tea box and put them in the Hudson? And you know what? You don't deserve to have any mourning or any. You were a club kid, the most famous club kid. Who cares? You're an asshole. So that, oh my God, that's the one.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's like, how do you feel? How can someone feel more sympathy for someone like that,
My first job in New York City was for Michael Alig.
Unbelievable.
At Limelight. And he was like, I'm looking for somebody to work in the cage over the bar at Limelight. And I was like, gorgeous, me. And so he's like, okay, put on this clown suit. And I was like, are you fucking kidding?
You were expecting that you'd be in a beautiful,
I
yeah.
Clown suit over the main bar in Limelight. That was my first gig in New York City.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Wash my hands, I promise. You start at the beginning, you got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But then, so you started doing that, but then you did Stonewall, you did Tu Wong Fu, and then later into the 2000s, you did Nip Tuck, I know, and then, was it a year after Nip Tuck, you, of course, were cast on Dirty Sexy Money, which, I'm sure most of the people watching this already know, but obviously it was an incredibly important, historic role, and for the first trans woman to play a major role on primetime TV. One of my favorite actors is Sidney Poitier, who was the first Black man to win an Oscar. And one thing he said that really stuck with me was, he said that I used my work as a reflection of my values. And I think really you did for the trans community what he did for African Americans. And I think, was that something that you were like, that phrase, like, I use my work to reflect my values? Was that something that you were really like conscious of? Like, I know this is a history making role, or was that sort of just a byproduct of,
it was first. At first it was like old New York City, like I got a gig. I had no idea how big it would be. And I had no idea how it would change the trajectory of the trans community and the trans community in film and television. But I mean, I tell this story a lot, but it really means something to me with what Sidney Poitier had said. I was at an award show. The first year I was in Dirty Sexy Money, and I sitting in the audience. It was, it was like at one of those gala events, and everybody's sitting around dinner tables and watching awards, And they all of a sudden put a clip of me with Donald Sutherland saying, like, and everything, I don't know. I said a line to him that, everything that I am means something. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the audience stood up and started applauding. And that was the first moment that I realized it wasn't about like, yes, girl, I got a gig. It was like, whoa, this is serious. Like, this really has changed things.
Mm-hmm.
That was an amazing feeling, but it also was a feeling of not weight so much, but of just um, gravity.
Mm-hmm.
That I felt obligated in a positive way to carry this role and future roles that I have in order to protect and lift up my community.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I just started, when I would audition, I would, doesn't work, this doesn't work. In the middle of the audition, I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what a trans woman would never say this. So I'm going to
Wow.
read this like this. And the producers would be like, oh, okay. Okay, great.
I'm sure they admired that, though. I'm sure they thought, okay, this is the kind of person we want. We want someone who's going to breathe some authenticity into this role.
Right. Experience equals power. So if you walk in, you're like, oh God, well, I guess I can read them. As opposed to be like, well, this is not what I would say, but this is what I would say. And this is going to make more sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it never steered me wrong,
Mm-hmm. No, and one thing I wanted to bring up, and I want to talk more about disclosure a little bit later on, but one thing that I know you mentioned in the documentary is that although the role was extremely powerful and groundbreaking, that the fact that your character dies, that sort of, or died, I should say, that sort of made it, was sort of a symbol of, yes, we've come a long way, but we have a long ways to go in terms of the way that trans women are portrayed on television. And that must have been kind of an interesting, like, bittersweet feeling for you.
It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics of television shows and new showrunners that come aboard that are transphobic, but it was heartbreaking that I was getting killed, and in a flashback. That was even worse because, Billy and my roles were really like the center role of the show that kind of spoke to being human, because the show was just fabulousness and drama and richness and this, and there was this role with me and Billy, and we were really grounded, and it was totally heartbreaking. Like, I couldn't, but what are you going to do? I was given this opportunity, and I ran with it, and I created change in the community, which was amazing, and I died. And then every other role that I took for the next 4 years, I died too. And it's
well, and let me say, like, and I don't want to get too dark or serious here, but like, the fact that we are still in America and around the world dealing with this plague, this a pandemic, if we want to call it, of trans women who are being murdered, every single day, and that this is something that for some weird reason is being like replicated in media portrayals of trans women, and that this continues. It's weird. It's really, I mean, obviously it's obviously you say it's fucked up, and but it's weird how real life and media portrayals, there's this really weird, sick, like, thing that is being perpetuated, and the media isn't helping.
I think that disclosure was a full stop to that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get away with that shit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The actors that audition or choose not to audition or go to rooms and say, I won't audition for this.
Mm-hmm.
And writers and producers watched disclosure and said, okay, we can't write these parts the way, I mean, come on. We can do shows about trans women getting murdered, especially trans women of color, because that's 98% of the trans women that are being murdered right now. We can do shows about that, but they have to be authentic and they have to be a real story through the eyes of a trans person, not through the eyes of the killer. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, these are the stories that need.
There's a difference between the way that if you tell a story in a way where you're saying this is what happens and we need to make it stop, versus this like, and this is a problem that's existed both for, you know, especially for the trans community, but for gay men, for lesbians, this history in film and in television of like of showing the death of or the murder of, you know, LGBTQ person in an almost sort of like not positive way, but like in like a kind of a, oh, how tragic and pathetic, and this is like, you know, it's a tonal thing, and the way, as you said, the way that you tell it, instead of from the killer's perspective, from the character, like this is a real human being, and this is what happens to people like them.
Right, exactly. And that's what I'm aiming to do, and the projects that I'm working on is tell stories through the trans perspective, like through their eyes. And that makes a big difference, because right now, you know, we still have around the country, like everywhere, bills that are being put forward to not allow trans people in bathrooms or in sports. And we make up 1% of the population of the world. Like, why is it that people want to go there with us? Because we're that fabulous? Like, I can understand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's so important that the roles that we take and the stories that we tell show positivity, real stories through the eyes of people. And that doesn't mean they're all rosy, because most trans people's stories aren't rosy. But they need to have a powerful message, and one that's truthful.
Absolutely. And so, of course, another thing I wanted to ask you about was, and I want to talk a little more about disclosure in a bit, but before that, I Am Kate, of course, which, you know, I watched every episode, and, you know, I think regardless of how people, say that again? Sorry.
So amazing. That show was amazing.
It was. And I think, you know, a lot of people give Caitlyn a bad, you know, rap or whatever, but I think regardless of how someone may feel about Caitlyn, you can't deny not only the impact that she's had in terms of visibility, but also the fact the show was a hugely transformational show in terms of representation and television. And so, you know, I always say, I think, you know, there's no question, all in all, that it was a hugely positive, influential show, and she's made a big difference. But I saw you did the reunion with her a few months ago, and some of the other cast members. What was that like, and what is your whole sort of perspective on that experience?
Okay, so first of all, I have to say that Caitlyn literally put the word trans on the world's lips. And however you feel about her political beliefs,
right,
that doesn't matter. What she did was elevate our community, part of the LGBTQ community, to a different level, where walking through Portugal in the countryside and women potting in a pottery shop were like, I know you on that show. I'm like, holy shit. You know what I mean?
I heard you talking about that on Larry King, when you said you walked into a pottery like place in Lisbon, and the women were like,
yes,
Candis.
I'm from the show. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, that is so random. But, you know, let me just break it down with Caitlyn.
Yeah.
Her views towards our community, towards the trans community, to the LGBT community, are so pure and open. We had tensions, yes, politically, but we were also in a year where the orange, munchkin-handed, menace, freak show, seditionist, asshole became elected. And we were all, you know, like, pro-Hillary and all of this, and there's just so misogyny. I mean, I don't want to go misogynistic and all that, but
no, I mean, yeah, I agree.
our world, you know, right at that time. And Caitlin is conservative. She's conservative. And you know, I've talked to her recently, and she didn't vote for Trump. Thank God, because I don't think we could have been friends.
That would have caused quite a response.
But you know, the point is like we all need to figure out how to figure it out. And so yes, I didn't agree with a lot of, you know, shit that she said. But we always found a common ground that we come back to and remain friends. And that was really important to me. Because all in all, she's an amazing fucking human being. You know what I mean? And so you have to get over that shit. And believe me, I watch news all day long. I mean, and I am schooled on everything that's going on. And
No, I see you're very engaged on Twitter.
Democrat, you know what I mean? So I just I know that yes, there are things that some conservatives and Republicans I will never agree with. I don't want to have anything to do with them. But if there are someone that doesn't believe in conspiracy seditionist theories and you feel like you can reach out to them, try.
Mm-hmm. Build a dialogue versus
cancel. You know what I mean? At least try. But if they watch all those weird conspiracy things and you know all of the QAnon crap craziness, then honey, wash your hands. You're done. Go ahead. Go. Have fun.
Yes. No, and Caitlin, from what I can tell, seems like the kind of person who, yes, may be conservative, but also still is, you know, I mean, not an old school Republican, and not to say that those were much better, but
no.
You know, at least semi-connected to reality versus
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I have to be careful because I don't want to imply that I think, you know,
no.
all the other Bush and all of them were that great. But
the difference between Ronald Reagan and Marjorie Taylor.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. No, then of course, disclosure. I just want to say, first of all, you were amazing. The documentary is amazing. I was so disappointed that it didn't get an Oscar nomination, and
I can't believe that.
I mean, I thought it was a slam dunk. I thought it was like, I thought it was going to happen.
I didn't do anything. I was just, you know, but that is so disappointing.
And I mean, because, you know, for those of you who haven't seen it, you should all watch it because it's amazing and was, you know, premiered at Sundance, had a 98% Rotten Tomatoes rating I saw. So, I mean, it was hugely, you know, critically acclaimed. And I mean,
it's the first of its kind. And it's really one of those documentaries that changes things. And that's the reason why I'm like, really? Right. Academy? Really?
Right. Well, I mean, not without, you know, I mean, it's a controversial question or whatever, I know. I don't want to put you in the hot seat, but do you feel like maybe part of why it didn't get nominated or on the short list is because of anti-trans, you know, sentiment? I mean, do you think that could be a big reason behind it, or?
I don't think it's anti-trans anything. I think that sometimes the industry wants to force trans into a moment instead of like part of a community that's here to stay in the industry. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be pushed into your fad. I'm not a fad. I'm an actor working in this country, I mean, in this city, it's auditioning for viable, real roles. And so don't push me into a fad. We're not a fad anymore. We used to be a fad years ago, but not anymore.
Well, I think I read an interview that you did where you said that because of the documentary, you feel like there that in terms of roles and getting cast, and, you know, that there has been a tangible impact and improvement in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, there's been an awakenedness in Hollywood that that allows our community to I don't know, like just have more substance behind us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it feels good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm sad about the Oscars, but I still think, nevertheless, the documentary,
I mean, it's changed so much. So whatever, it's Oscars. You know,
right,
how many times have we been like, oh, what? The same two
right,
actors are nominated again for the,
right,
you know, or
totally.
movie. So yeah, no, it is what it is. Um, the movie really changed a lot of people's minds and hearts, and it's a good thing.
Totally. Don't want to keep you for too long, but in closing, I just wanted to ask you if, I read in some of your other interviews that you have a few projects you're working on. I know with COVID, it's kind of put everything at a standstill, but like what sort of things are you working on at the moment?
Oh my God, right before this, actually at 4:30, I pitched to 20th Century a new project. So
Wow. Wow.
we'll
And
see.
I
You know
love,
what I
by
mean?
the way, that you're like, of course, I saw Candis for President, which was a short you did for Outfest and for a bunch of other
Yeah.
big festivals a few years ago. But I love that you're really taking like, matters into your own hands, and like you're starting to actually like create your own content,
You
right?
have, there's not
Yeah.
enough material
Right.
for, for me. So I get stir crazy and I'm like, let's do this and let's do that. And this new project that I'm working on, which will find a home,
Absolutely.
is exciting. And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you see it. Theater, not a theater, a television screen near you.
Well, I'm excited to see it. Very excited.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm such a huge fan of yours, and really, I really appreciate you doing this. Thank
It's
you.
so good to see your cute little adorable face.
I'll be 29 in April, so
Oh,
I'm
oh,
getting a little long in the tooth in terms of like, you know, when you met me, I
me
was still a
too.
youngin, but
Me too.
you look insanely beautiful and gorgeous.
I
So
know.
you look exactly the same as you did
No,
10 years ago.
no,
So
I could have a good COVID 10 on, but it's okay. Oh
anyway, Candace, thank you so much.
my
Really,
God. Love
talk
you
soon.
so much.
Oh, you too. Hopefully see you soon.
All
Have a good
right.
night.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.